Very good morning, I am Shilpa. Welcome you all to the NCERT live phone-in program. And our today's topic of discussion is Teaching of Science and NCF 2005. And to discuss further in the studio we have Mr. R.R Koireng, designated as an Assistant Professor at Department of Curriculum Studies in NCERT. I welcome you, sir, on today's show.
Welcome.
So let's proceed to understand our today's topic of discussion. Mr. Koireng, today we are discussing about teaching of science as per the National Curriculum Framework 2005.
Okay.
So why not to commence our conversation by understanding what is science?
If I would have to convey to students and teachers alike on what is science, you know, humans have been always curious about their natures and their surroundings. And one of the earliest endeavors of human have been to carefully observe nature, environment, surrounding, physical world and the biological world. Now these careful observations have led them to, you know, come out or discovered a meaningful patterns and relationship between the physical, biological and the natural world. So these meaningful patterns and relationship have led them to build a model, and it has allowed them and come out with theories, laws and principles. So this human endeavor, I will call it as what is science.
That's a science. So science is a subject which is something based on the observation.
Yes,
Is it
careful
right to say that?
observation, finding out meaningful pattern, relationship and coming out with, you know, certain modeled, you know, a meaningful pattern, establishing, you know, suppose like cause and effect, you know, and all these has led them to arrive at these laws, principles and theories.
Okay.
So necessary things for science is that it requires careful observation, having a meaningful pattern, relationship,
Right.
establishing relationship. So these are some of the science processes.
Okay. Mr. Koireng, as today we are discussing about teaching of science as per
Okay.
the NCF 2005.
Okay.
So what are the recommendations according to NCF for teaching of science?
There is a long list of recommendation on teaching of science. So I would begin with what are the curriculum structure
Okay.
we have in teaching of science first of all. Then I will come to a specific case of what is teaching of science, how it should be taught in an upper primary, then secondary and senior secondary. As of now, we have the structure of science, the way how it should be taught, I mean in the school, is that at the primary level, that is we have environmental studies from class 3 to class 5. So the science is infused in that environmental studies. But science as a subject is formally being taught from class 6. So this is the from class 6, it is the first time that students will study formally what is science.
Science, right.
Then we have from upper primary, that is upper primary is from class 6 to class 8. Then we have secondary, class 9 and class 10. Then we have of course senior secondary. So this is the way how we followed our curriculum structure in science. Now the science recommendation by NCF 2005 is such that now there is one position paper on teaching of science,
Okay.
based on which the idea of science teaching was taken from there, and this has led to the National Curriculum Framework 2005. Now this position paper on teaching of science tells us that hands-on and inquiry based
Okay.
teaching, that is pedagogy, has to be followed for teaching of science. Now if we have to discuss more about hands-on and inquiry way of teaching of science, then one thing we have to remember is that it should be reflected right from the syllabus, textbooks. Evaluation. So it is a series of, science teaching is not like if I want to do hands-on and just like I will just simply follow one textbooks. So it has to be followed right from syllabus formulation. For example, if I want to teach hands-on way of teaching of science and inquiry base, now I will have to rearrange my syllabus of science. Now please remember that a syllabus is not simply a list of topics.
Right.
It involves the way how you wanted to teach science. So in hands-on way of learning of science, we begin from things which are concrete and are immediately available to students. I mean, they can concretize. Then we move after that to a more abstract form of teaching of science. So because when they are mature enough. So, and if you look at one of the guiding principle of NCF 2005, that is that connecting knowledge to life outside the classroom.
Okay.
That means connecting knowledge to everyday life. So one thing I would just want to put as an example of hands-on way of teaching of science and how we have restructured our syllabus. Now if you look at, we teach motion. Now everyone will question us. In classics we teach motion. Everyone will question us, and we teach force in class 8. Before teaching force, how do you teach motion?
Motion, right.
So in hands-on way of teaching of science, basically it also involves moving away from disciplinary approach, right? So in upper primary level, science syllabus has been restructured in such a way that to reflect this hands-on way of teaching of science. Then once we come to this secondary stage, now disciplines of physics, chemistry emerges, but still they are being taught as a science. They are integrated.
Right.
Now after class 10th, we move to senior secondary. Now we have a choice. Then student can take science or humanities or commerce.
Right.
Now even if they have to take this science, they will have science as physics, chemistry, biology, of course biotechnology, and many more disciplines are coming up these days. So choices are being given to students.
So Mr. Koireng, here we have got a question from Pratipati, and she wants to understand NCF 2005 states that good science education is true to the child, true to the life, and true to the science. What is this supposed to mean?
When we mean to say this statement, true to the life, true to the science, we mean that the science teaching basically which we follow should help the children to come out with their own conclusion. Basically what we used to follow in science teaching, which is also still happening in many schools in the country, is that teachers sometimes read out activities which are given in the textbooks, right? Or activities are seldom performed, or sometimes activities are done for the sake of doing activities.
Right.
Now if science has to be taught in a way, then what it has to be done is that activities are to be a part of learning process. Now when I talk about activities are a part of learning process, I basically means to say that scientific concepts, theories, principles are to be arrived through activities. That means activities should definitely form, and here comes the role of teachers. Teachers has to design activities, experiments, so that it will help students to enable to arrive at concepts, not necessarily just for the sake of performing activities. So basically NCF 2005 promotes process learning of science. So process is so important. See, students and teachers or may not get the correct, very accurate result of the activities of the experiment they are performing. So at upper primary level or school level, we are not emphasizing a lot of accuracy on their outcome of the experiment or activities. What we are looking at them is how they can make the process of science right. Then the process part of science should be taught well to children, so that they inculcate this habit, this attitude to when they grow to higher class and when they study very specialized science subject after they pass out from school level.
So related to this, we have got a question from Gaurav, who is a student of 9th standard, and he wants to understand the science is a subject which help us to analyze our daily lives, but children are not taught to actually analyze or examine their own life. Where are we lacking?
That's what I have been telling about, the way how science is being taught actually. Science is not taught the way it is being intended to be taught. Because see, he was asking a questions on analyzing skills. Like basically analyzing is a skill. So analyzing is not taught. If you want to inculcate a spirit of scientific temper, which include analyzing part, now you cannot simply taught that students by lecturing. You cannot give just lecturing. In fact, the teachers should give an opportunity to children to grapple with problems where certain analyzing skills are there. So you set up some situations or learning situation or activities where students will be able to analyze. So he keeps on analyzing so many things. Or for example, you may ask the students to collect some data, certain data, any data it can be, maybe noting down the reading,
right?
Okay, or maybe collecting data from people outside the community. Then how a student arrived by drawing conclusion, data, interpreting data, by analyzing only he can interpret it. So this, if a student has to really inculcate these values, they have to be made, they have to be given a situations, and they have to grapple with problems. Then only basically they will learn this type of skills. So this type of situations or opportunity is not being given. Perhaps this is also being influenced by examination systems, because exams students are being asked how to define this term, right? So we also should think about apart from teaching this way, but also the way how examination systems are being structured. Because today what is happening is that what is asked in the exam is being learned, instead of what is being learned is to be examined. So examination system also plays a big part in this science teaching to be successful.
I think we do teach our students and maybe the teachers so many things about the science, how to teach them. But the problem is that they don't know how to apply the theories. So how we can help students to gain the knowledge to apply whatever they are learning in the science?
It is basically, as you rightly said, learning science is not like mugging up terms, then reproducing definitions in the examination hall. Actually, learning science goes beyond that. Actually, that's what you are telling about. How they can apply in their daily life.
Right.
Now, if you look at the textbook or syllabus of NCERT, many of the concepts are actually built around children day-to-day life. You take most of the concepts, these are built around children experiences which they have experienced in their daily life. So what the intention was that children should be able to apply in daily life. That is one part. Now, to encourage children, like I have learned these scientific concepts or principle, any scientific principle or concepts. Now, children should be given an opportunity to to solve daily life problems. For example, if you look at, science applicable is full of science application in our daily life. You look at in your kitchen, like the handle of the kettle is made of a non-conductor insulator, right? These are one application I am telling. Now, for example, electric heater is not working. A coil electric system, you have lots of these things in rural areas, still it's being used. Now, if a student is exposed, suppose he learned already conductor, insulator, then heating effect of electric current. Now, suppose your heater is not working for a child, let's say, coil heater, right? Then, if a teacher give an opportunity to explore, because theoretically a child has learned already in the school. Now, this type of situation which I was talking about, that the context of the student, the teacher has to provide this type of opportunities. That is one very important. Another thing is that, suppose if you have learned some principle again, you have a daily life problems, any problem. For example, let's say that cyclone had come. Now, a child is curious to know about how cyclone occurs. No, you can instruct a child like to take a small project, on this, and then many other things also you can give. Any concepts of science you can explore and give them a project, and how the basic knowledge of science will help them to understand one part. Second part, how the knowledge of science can solve their daily life problems, maybe in terms of exhibit. Now, in India we have a lot of exhibition and science exhibition happenings in school level, Now, this type of opportunity can be given so that children will also can showcase their talent at the same time, and also at the same time community, other children from all our the schools or outside their school also can come and learn about his exhibit. So, there is an incentive actually. So, the projects, scientific projects, science projects, exhibition, these should also be a part of learning process of science, and students and teachers are always encouraged to participate in this type of events.
Mr. Koireng, don't you think that we should give more opportunity, more space to student to understand, let's say if they are doing some practical, they have got to the conclusion and the conclusion is same as what the theory is saying, but they are understanding it by doing a practical.
Yes.
So, for instance, if in the examination a question is being asked, so rather writing the exact word which is written in the textbook, so can't they write the answer based on their own experience, because most of the time the students are being forced to write what is written on the textbook.
That's what, here comes the teacher competency also. Many times students feel that what is written, the definition, textbook definition, that should be reproduced in the examination. Then only a child is thinking that he or she will get marks. That's why we have been emphasizing a lot. If you looked at NCERT textbooks, you will find that definition terms, scientific terms are not defined first. They are introduced very slowly by providing certain situation, activity, and student will arrive at the definition. That understanding part is being built there. Now, that's why we always encourage reproducing definition is not very important for us. What they have to do is that, how can a child understand that concept and can also tell in his or her own language. So, that part of definition has to be accepted in the examination, and children should be encouraged. So, that type of thinking, as I was telling, that reproducing that textbook definition should be taken care, unless in the examination. If it is not taken care, student will continue to do it. So we have to encourage our teachers that how children understand concepts is more important than merely rote memorizing definition of science. So this has to be understood by the teachers also.
Here we have got a question from Madhav, and he wants to understand Child Science Congress. How can we enroll or participate? Here I would like to amalgamate this question with one of the question is, are there any few agencies or organization which works on popularization of the science, or which provide opportunity to the students or maybe the teachers?
Yeah, in India we have a lot of organization as far as I know. Being from NCERT, I was the state level exhibition coordinator for 3-4 years for popularization of science, and and also to give not only popularization, to also encourage children to showcase their talent also. So in NCERT what we have is, we have state level exhibitions. We give every year guidelines to all the states where schools are expected to provide exhibition, conduct exhibitions. Then they have district level, they have then state level. Now from state level exhibition, some selected exhibitions are being selected. Now after these exhibitions are being selected, they are sent to NCERT. Now in NCERT this is being screened, and they are invited for national exhibition. NCERT conducts national exhibition every year. In fact, 45th national exhibition has been conducted already. Now from this NCERT national exhibition, some selected children are being sent to Children's Science Congress. Now this is one way. The other way to go is from we have DST, Department of Science and Technology. They also organizes this inspired exhibition from district level. Well, children are given opportunity to make models, work on projects, and these projects, some selected projects are being sent to Children's Science Congress. Apart from that, we also have National Council of Science Museum. They also organizes science exhibitions, so children also can participate there. Then recently we also have one scheme which called Rashtriya Avishkar Abhiyan. May not be necessarily that they will be participating in Children's Science Congress, but in case if children are very curious to know certain things, they want to do certain projects, they can approach higher education institutions like IITs, NITs, and many universities. They can go to their laboratory, learn about science in their laboratory. And not only that, the higher education institute has also responsibility to mentor schools. So these higher education institutions, they also have to mentor schools. So it is both way. Before, we don't have these types of institutionalizing these schools and higher education institute in India. But now, because of Rashtriya Avishkar Abhiyan, children can approach higher education institution, and I encourage all the children who are on this show to please also contact higher education institution if they have local problem or some science concept and they want to build and understand more. They can always take the help of these higher education institution in the country.
Okay. So Mr. Koireng, when we talk about the science, so after studying science, most of the time students get perplexed.
Yeah.
So could you please guide us what kind of career options are available?
I would say that science offer very much, I think, countless opportunity for children, because I can name them only few right now, because if I name them, it will be a long list, and it will not be exhaustive also. But the most important thing is that if you study science, your thinking processed, we call it, then critically analyzing things, critical thinking, analyzing power, which we also call it, broadly as scientific tempers. So building a scientific temper in each and every child in India is the fundamental duties of all the citizens. It is in the fundamental duty list in the Constitution of India, scientific temper. Now, science, after studying class 12, if you suppose you want to go for medical doctor, you want to become a doctor, without studying science, you will not be allowed to study medicine.
Medicine, right.
This is one. Then engineering, you look at, you should have studied science up to class 12. So engineering, medicine you can study. Apart from that, these days emerging areas like biotechnology. Then you also have, space scientists. You want to be a space scientist. You can be a nuclear scientist working in the laboratory. Then you can be a professors in the universities, inquiring about so many scientists. Then you can be a biologist, physicist, a chemist. Then so many other interdisciplinary fields are also coming up these days, like, cutting edge research like nanotechnology, and which we call it, so many research are being conducted these days. Then organic LEDs, and so many. So science offers us a lot of scopes. Before it used to be, only like doctor, engineer, or you become a teacher. So these days it has opened up much more opportunity. In fact, future generation are much more luckier than us. So I think because of the advancement,
they have more options available.
Yeah.
Mr. Koireng, how do you visualize seeing, the aim of science in our country?
Basically, if we have to look at two broad categorization, I will be making it when I talk about science teaching. Basically, we teach science up to class 10, which is compulsory. No matter whether you will be taking humanities or you will be taking whatever subject, you will have to study science up to class 10. Now, the basic aim of this is that we need to have scientifically literate society in our country. We need to be all scientifically literate, because this helped us in coming out of, like superstitions, prejudices we have, right? So because science taught us how to critically think, analyze, objectively observe things. So this type of skill is one basic one. Now other part, second aim is that, for a country to develop as a nation, you will have to, these days if you see, the development is all science and technology driven development. Because if you have science and technology know-how, though, it has a lot of multiplying factors, because the economy, then other, business area, these are all, driven by the knowledge of science and technology. So if you want to make this country very powerful, then it is very important that we have to have a good curriculum which will produce scientifically literate people in this country. Not only that, but also we can compete with people in terms of developing, inventing, cutting edge technology, and where we can have, intellectual property rights, So these are two main part of science teaching, the main broad, aim of science teaching at school level.
Okay, so Mr. Koireng, what I was asking is, how do you visualize? What do you think that, like quickly, we are less in time, if you could just quickly tell us in pointers what kind of changes we can make in our curriculum?
The curriculum itself, we have achieved quite a lot, but the implementation part is lacking. A little bit of more focused on implementation part with the involvement of all stakeholders. It's not that only education department will be involved in these endeavors. The parents, society as a whole, you know, the whole ecosystem has to be created, you know, science for, you know, excellence, you know, that type of things we should be creating and discussing more in public forum, more in the society. So all these type of things need to be taken up at ground level. Implementation part is the most important part. So with a collaborative effort, I am very optimistic that we can achieve, you know,
what is required
yes.
now. Okay. So here we have come to the end of our today's show. Thank you, Mr. Koireng, for guiding us.
Pleasure, man.
So if you have any query or the question, if you may want to ask related to our today's show, then you can send an email to us or can dial on our toll-free number. Till then, take care and keep watching Kishore Manch.